This episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast is brought to you in part by No Judges Needed BJJ Apparel and Lavender Lane CBD products. You can use the promo code JJT for 20% off your first order at No Judges Needed, and the code JJ Times 20, all uppercase. Last two items are numerical for 20% off your first order of CBD products. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Kevin Gallagher. And today we have yet another in a long line of incredibly dangerous guests, men who could break other men over their leg should they desire it. We are sitting down with professional MMA fighter, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, combat Jiu-Jitsu lightweight world champion, and soon-to-be opponent of the immaculate Craig Jones, a repeating opponent, as it would turn out, Vagner Rocha. Vagner, thank you so much for joining us, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you for having me.
I got to say, your beard looks fucking great.
Yeah, that
mine
beard's
looks like
getting
shit.
epic, man. That thing is getting epic.
If you want, I'll shave out of respect for you. Like, I'll go shave right now.
It gets big, man. It was real big, like during this quarantine. I had it like kind of like out here, and then I was like, man, this is too wild.
Yeah,
so I had it, brought it back a little bit, and now it's starting to look good again.
Not everyone can grow an epic beard. It's just not in everyone's DNA. And I will tell you what, from someone that has been known to grow an epic beard myself, kudos to you, my friend. That is a very epic beard, man.
I'll be honest with you, the first time I grew it, I was like, whoa, this thing is nice. I never liked beards.
I feel like absolute shit.
I thought it was ugly as hell. I was like, man, that shit looks crap. Why do people grow that on their face?
Nope.
But now I'm like,
nope.
Yeah, I couldn't see myself without it.
Yeah, it's a thing. But I remember you. I remember you pre-beard, and I remember when you kind of had the scruff. And this look has lasted, and I'm glad it lasted, man. I'm happy to see the beard.
This is probably forever look now.
Oh, hell yeah!
So how you feeling, man? You've been training your ass off, or what?
I'm feeling great, man. 100%. No injuries, no dings. This time off during the quarantine, I didn't take a lot of time off, to be truthful. I never really stopped training, but I didn't train like I normally train, right? So I feel like it gave my body a mild break, and I did work out a lot in the process. So I figured like maybe, the first couple weeks when this got real serious and everybody stopped doing stuff, I was still training. And then about the third or fourth week, I got a little paranoid myself. I was like, man, I'm going to get sick if I keep training with random people. So I'm going to stop training. And then a week of that went by, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I think that exact story is pretty much the general consensus of like 98% of the jiu-jitsu community. Yeah. I was right in the same boat with you. When it first went down, I was like, oh, fuck, man. We got to stay away from anybody. Then I was like, maybe I'll roll with a few people that I know, do some private lessons. Now it's like, I don't give a shit. We can go roll in the park. I don't care anymore. We'll just see what's
happens. Yeah, exactly.
So
I stayed relatively in good shape, and the things that were bothering me because of overtraining, always over. I feel like my life is an overtraining cycle. Kind of went away, and I feel really good. Probably the best I've felt in a long time.
Do you feel like? I mean, you're getting older. I mean, I love you, but you are. What are you? 36 now? I know you. I know you don't want
next week.
38. Wow, man. So like myself, I'm 43. So myself, I started to find in those late 30s, it's very important to find time for yourself to get rest. It's almost equally as important to train hard as it is to find time to recover. Have you found that in your later stages of competing that you got to kind of give yourself a little chance to let the muscles in the body kind of recuperate?
So I've been training since I was 19 years old, and in my early 20s, it was all about getting as many days as you could a week, right? To get better, to get faster, and I think I might have done it wrong because I didn't know any better. I feel like I get more progress done now with the training sessions I do, because I tend to include a lot more resting in the middle, you know? So I get like some really 2 or 3 solid hard days in, and I rest one, you know? So to me, I feel like I get more level jumps. Basically, when I say level jumps, I know how to measure. It's one thing that I do well too, as I've been measuring my own progress over the years, especially with things I need to learn or things I'm not familiar with or things I want to get better at. Like I measure it in a course of 2 or 3 months, you know, and you know, when you do that, you gain one and you lose another. But if you're smart, you'll find your way back to what you used to be good at and focus in on it again. But I feel like it's 100% part of my my life nowadays. Since like 33, 34, I started, you know, to do 2 or 3 days strong and a rest day in the middle, like 100% nothing, you know? So yeah, and it's, you know, 2 or 3 days like that, mostly 2 days a week of that really helps, you know?
Yeah, man. It's funny you talked about how, you know, everyone's lives have changed over the coronavirus, because it has. I mean, we're strapped to our houses, you know, like it or not. We're just not able to do all the things we want to
Right.
do. And one of the things that I've noticed that's actually been a pretty good positive for me is just that. Like, I work in a bar. Like, I got a bartender. I work fucking, you know, late nights in a bar, and you know, it drains the life out of me. And like, I figure out ways to find time to training. And a lot of those times when I'm training, like, I'm just showing up to the gym because I got to be there, but I'm going on low rest. I haven't really got a good night's sleep, but there it is. I got to go train. But one of the things I've found is that not only is my body working better, because it is, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting as dinged up as much. I feel fresher and I have more energy when I train, but I feel like my mental capabilities are stronger in a sport where, you know, your mental capacities are so important. Like, I feel like that extra stress, that extra rest, and that extra time to kind of sit back and just not think about fucking training or not having to think about going to the gym all the time. It helps you grow, you know?
Well,
It's tremendous, the importance of rest.
yeah, I feel like it's weird, and I might be a little off in saying this, but I think that for a lot of people, getting a break from frustration and failure that they might have been having on the mats, just because everyone, you know, I feel like everyone gets in those ruts where they're just not connecting things, the flow isn't happening the same, and I think that this break will also give those people that maybe chose to step away from jiu-jitsu a little bit more perspective and say, oh man, like now now that it's not even on the table, I miss it and I want to go back, you know? So this is good. It could be good for the long run in that regard. I don't know.
So you train at Fight Sports down there, and I see a lot of the guys you have down there and train with. I mean, your room is amazing. Like, any given day, you've got, you know, the best world-class jiu-jitsu practitioners and black belts at your disposal. How much of that do you feel like has helped you to get to the position to become the grappler that you are today?
Of course, yeah. You know, jiu-jitsu is an individual sport, but at the end of the day, it's a team sport. If you're playing, you know, basketball, pickup ball with scrubs, you're going to be a scrub. You're not going to be in the NBA, right?
Right.
So it's just one of those. You can't be at that next level if you don't have people pushing you to those levels. So I have, you know, so many guys that I'm grateful for to be able to, you know, challenge me day in and day out and on the mats, you know, and, you know, it's a blessing. You know, there's very little places in the world that have the amount of talent that we have inside our teams. You know, I always speak with random people, you know, in the course of, you know, this traveling jiu-jitsu and doing things, you know, where people are like, man, you know, if we get 1 or 2 black belts in a room, it's like a, you know, and you know, Kev, you've been training a long time, you know, 5-6 years ago, getting, you know, a couple black belts in a room was a big deal.
Right.
You know, you show up at Fight Sports and it's like 40 black belts in a room.
Yeah.
You know, it's craziness.
It's one of the things that I always tell Matt about, that I'm always like, I feel like, you know, it's such an impressive thing to do. When I started, you know, if you saw a black belt, it was like, you know, Jesus walking into the room. You know, we go on some of our pro training days, we've got 10 black belts on the mat, and it's, you know, it's always cool to see how a gym grows from, you know, nothing to 10 black belts. It's amazing. It's fun to watch, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, there's guys that can get better, that are kind of outliers, that can get better without having that advanced competition. They just kind of like figure out a way to do it. But like, there's nothing that substitutes training at that high a level day in and day out, when you're in a room where there's no rest match, there's no rest rounds. Like, you can't say, oh, I'm going to roll with this blue belt now, I'm going to roll with this purple belt now, to kind of take a little break and work on some technique. Well, every match you got Cyborg, you got fucking, you know, whoever hell else is in that room to try to kill you every day.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. You know,
I was actually just wondering, for my own curiosity and any of our viewers that might not be aware, how many years were you training before you got your black belt?
I started at 19 and I got my black belt in 2007. And 2007 I was 24, 25. So
wow, man, that's a long time as a black belt.
Yeah. Wagner's the real deal, man. Like, I remember Wagner back in the old school days, watching you compete in small little like MMAC matches and things like that.
Anywhere there was money, I was there.
Yeah, some of your more notable matches with AJ Agazarm before the kick, we'll call it. I'm not gonna lie to you. For somehow or another, I think literally the last 4 podcasts we've done, that always seems to come up. That the AJ Agazarm kick off of the stage. I'm not gonna lie to you. It figures out a way to get to the conversation.
It's definitely, people can say whatever they want. I think it's the biggest thing to ever be done in jiu-jitsu.
I'm not too far off from that, brother. I really believe that. I mean, it definitely made Fight to Win. I mean, you could definitely argue that, like, no one really knew what the hell Fight to Win was. What was it? I think it was Fight to Win 2 or 3 or something like that. It was like, you know,
it was early on, yeah,
4 or 5 years ago. And like, Fight to Win was, you know, that was back when professional jiu-jitsu was, you know, you had Metamoris here and there, but like the idea of a real weekly installment of a professional traveling jiu-jitsu show was really, really not there.
They wanted a show. They got it.
Tell me a little bit about, like, because obviously, like, we make no bones about it. Like, you are a fierce competitor, and you have tendencies to do things that some people may say are beyond the realm of sportsmanship, just to come out there and say it. Because, you know, I don't believe so, because believe me, I know all about winning that edge. But tell me a little bit about some of the rationales you have behind playing that game.
I believe that it's different to some. You know, when you do things that they're not used to being done to them, it throws their psyche off. You know, and the easiest way to break somebody is mentally to do it. You know, to get in their mind and warp them in a match. You know, it could be something from as easy as a shrug or a push or a shove in a position that they're not ready. You know, I tend to do those things. I practice things like that in training for those purposes. This year, I did never for a second did I plan on ever doing. You know, this came out of left field even for me. After I did it, I remember thinking, like, did I just do something really stupid?
But well, to have your back, like I said, I've known AJ for a long time, and I've known you for a long time. Like, AJ is a little prick sometimes, and AJ 100% turned away from you in the middle of the match and walked away like it was nothing. Like, the timer was running. He was being disrespectful first and foremost, because that's what he does. So he's trying to play that mind game with you by getting inside of your head and walking away from you. Now, I don't know if I would have kicked him off the stage, but that's just me. But in the time, at the moment, I understand. Like, you're winning that mind game. You're not allowing him to use that tactical advantage of disrespecting you to his advantage, and you make him pay for it. Screw him. That's what he gets.
Yeah, me and him have history. I mean, At the end of the day, I don't dislike him. You know, I don't hate him or anything like that. I just feel like that was just a different era in my life, different time. And, you know, he caught the old, rough around the edges, Vagner. And, you know, I was like, bro, I'm not playing any games with you, man. I'm tired of your, you know, this persona you're trying to show people and act, you know, this act that you are.
Because he's not that kid. He's really not.
He's an act. Yeah, it's an act, you know. And
So
he was trying to use me to be his stomping stone. And first off, in jiu-jitsu, there's no way he could do that. You know, I know that. He knows that. Everybody knows that. If you look at our history of competition, it's been proven many, many times, you know. So I think the number is ridiculously upside down. It's like 8-1 or something for me. You know, he beat me once when we were blue belts. So, I mean, I don't even count that. That's like, you know, it was like one of my first competitions ever. So, and then, you know, after that, you know, at brown, black, I went on to, you know, demolishing his life, you know, even making him switch weight classes. But, you know, at the end of the day, when that happened, I was trying to get my name on the map. You know, I was trying to prove a point, you know, like by, you know, just dogging him that day. And his, you know, his actions prior to the tournament had upset me, you know, and when he turned his back, I honestly, I wasn't, there was no thought behind what I did. Honestly, it was just like, F this guy, you know, and it happened, you know. And I apologized to him, even though I know he didn't accept my apology. He even turned his face when I apologized. Not that day, you know, I apologized actually this year at ADCC. I turned to him and said, hey, man, I want to apologize to you. You know, I know what I did was wrong. And I know what I did was wrong. But, you know, again, you know, so most people told me, would say to me, don't even waste your time, you know, like he deserves it. But it's not a matter if he deserves it or not. I shouldn't have done that. It was wrong. But, you know, it happens, and it's in the past, and it's one of those moments that's going to go down in history forever. No, I don't think it'll ever be repeated.
I tell you, like, I 100% agree with you that, like, it really was one of those seminal moments in the history of competition jiu-jitsu that kind of put it on the map. It kind of made it maybe not the mainstream thing that we talk about, but it definitely
I don't want to be known as the guy who kicked the other guy off the stage. But
no, but it definitely made.
I'd rather be the guy than the other guy, right?
Exactly. You'd rather be the guy that did the kicking, right? Everybody wants to be the guy that did the kicking.
Can I just ask? No emotion, obviously, because you've moved on from this instance. But you know, how impressed are you with AJ's legendary Bellator career so far?
I think he's got a lot to go. I watched him fight. His striking is not good. You know, his wrestling has never impressed me. You know, his wrestling works good for grappling because he tries to score off of it. You know, and he does just enough to score. You know, and he puts himself in very bad positions with like submissions. So you know, his jiu-jitsu in itself, to me, it's enough to get him by a couple good fights. But he'll eventually face somebody who's gonna shut him down tremendously and gonna punish him. You know, he's gonna get hurt because his style is dangerous for MMA to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like you're shooting the way he shoots wildly. He's got no striking. You know, he's putting himself in risk to really get hurt. And you know, and he talks cash. You know, and that cash, he can't back that up. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have the skills to back that up. I fought MMA. I got almost 20 fights. Like, I watch him fight, and I go, ooh, this is going to be bad one day.
Yeah.
He's going to, like, right now, he's probably getting scrubs, you know, but soon enough, he's going to get a guy who's really in there, that's a killer, you know? Like, if he fought, for example, if I fought him, I would hurt him, like, physically hurt him, because his style would run into my style, and that would be dangerous, you know? Like, like I said, he's, you know, at best a C level, maybe even a higher B- level fighter, you know?
Yeah,
and in Bellator, there's no B level. The B in there, the B's in Bellator they're feeders, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's gonna get fed a couple of them, but eventually they're gonna get tired of paying him what he's getting paid, and they're gonna feed him somebody who's gonna kill him.
They're using him as a name to build their brand up.
But you got to believe that in this sport of MMA, there's several ways of branding, right? There's levels of branding, right? You brand one guy and then you use that guy to brand another guy. You know what I mean? And eventually he's going to be that guy that's going to be used to brand another guy. He's going to be somebody's stepping stone, and he's going to get hurt.
Well, I mean, what if I assume one day you're just going to get a morning text from Scott Croker saying, "Hey, Vagner, we're looking to."
I don't know, man.
Asia.
I think my time has passed. I don't think people are really looking. To be honest with you, I'm not. I train with Gilbert Burns, with Marlon Moraes. These guys are consistently in my gym. I have a bunch of really top level amateur fighters, even professionals. Cameron, I got this guy that comes to my gym. I mean, I got so many good guys that are coming to my gym. MMA guys that train with me, like for groundwork, you know. So I'm not.
Gilbert
really
Burns
looking,
is on fire right now. He just beat
I'm not really looking. Yeah, we fight this weekend. Gilbert's one of my main training partners. Like, so long story short, I'm not really looking to fight because I'm getting paid so well to do jiu-jitsu that I'm like, bro, I got no reason to go step in the cage unless
the fight, right?
Unless the payday is right, you know.
Right.
But you know, if I get a call like that, yeah, of course I'm probably going to take it.
Well,
you know, but the call's got to be right.
Pivoting off that, I guess a little bit, some like a step in between that you've famously made a name for yourself in combat jiu-jitsu, not a little bit of jiu-jitsu, a little with some striking thrown in. You're the biggest name in that field. So what was it like getting involved? I think
so, right? Like there's not really been. They've had shows after me, but nobody's done it like me.
I mean, I'm going to tell you just anecdotally, you're the only name I think of besides Eddie Bravo himself. So, I mean, like that means a lot. What was it like getting involved with that rule set? You know, because it's definitely raised a lot of questions for a lot of different jiu-jitsu athletes.
It's a hybrid, you know, it's a jiu-jitsu could be and this comes from, you know, each instructor personally. I believe everybody has a part in this. Jiu-jitsu could be kind of lazy sometimes, right? How often do you're rolling with somebody, you pull into half guard and you kind of sit there and wait to see what the other guy's going to do and you're playing the game, right? It's a game, but in reality, when it's a fight, it's not a game anymore, right? So if you pull in a half guard and you're playing lazy, you're going to get hit. You know what I mean? If you get hit, you might make a mistake and turn and run, you know, like that might cost you your back, and then that could cost you getting finished, you know, like I feel like jiu-jitsu doesn't have the urgency anymore of like being aggressive and being forward with your body and using it as, you know, as what it's supposed to be, a weapon, you know. And that's what, you know, Kevin was hinting at earlier about me doing some things that cross lines that people get offended by. It's not that I do them because I want to be a dick. It's that I do them because I know they're effective and because I fought MMA and I use jiu-jitsu in the MMA sense, and I know how to use my jiu-jitsu the right way, you know. And that when I go into jiu-jitsu competitions and I'm able to apply that in the game, it just makes people really, really uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah.
So
and it kind of breaks them down mentally. Like now they're not thinking about your jiu-jitsu, they're thinking about Wagner's being a dick. Wagner did this, Wagner did that. And in reality, like, you know, it's no different than shoulder pressure. It's no different from you know, bugging the chin or doing any of the other things that we use for pain compliance in order to elicit a response. And I think a lot of times, this is just me personally, I don't think one way or another this way. And then again, I love the art of sport jiu-jitsu. I love watching the way submission only matches go. There's a part of me that enjoys that. I like the technique and the flowing nature of all the things. But I think, you know, it's very fair to say that the reality is that a lot of submission only matches have gone away from the ideals of what traditional jiu-jitsu is all about. The idea of using pressure, the idea of using some kind of pain compliance in order to elicit a response. You see all these flowing matches and everyone talks about how beautiful they are, but, you know, I don't know, maybe a good old shoulder pressure, maybe a good old freaking bugging under the chin or smack crossface elicits the response you want.
Knee on your face.
Right. What do you think about that? What do you think about people that use a debate to say that sport jiu-jitsu is softening the art of what, you know, MMA or the true martial art of self-defense jiu-jitsu is all about?
Well, it's already in the pudding. Look at MMA. How many UFC stars are jiu-jitsu related?
Right. Yeah.
You know, MMA was all jiu-jitsu related superstars.
Right.
At one point, right, when jiu-jitsu was in the early 90s, MMA and jiu-jitsu were hand in hand, right? We're like, oh, you're MMA, you do jiu-jitsu. You know, jiu-jitsu. If you did jiu-jitsu, you were superior to the MMA guy. Now it's the MMA guy is superior to the jiu-jitsu guy. How is that? How does that even make sense?
Yeah. You know, and even guys that are, you know, MMA fighters that might not be known on the jiu-jitsu scene, like you see like the bare elements of what, you know, the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu premises are: positional jiu-jitsu, moving into another element of control and using that to influence strikes and things like that. Like, so guys are using very good jiu-jitsu, but they don't get the credit for their jiu-jitsu because they're not doing, you know, some crazy leg lock spinning attack, or they're not working into a rolling back take, or some of the more creative things that you see in competition jiu-jitsu these days.
Yeah, I believe that they're not using jiu-jitsu properly because they're not able to apply the pressure necessary to finish people. You know, if you watch something like, I'll give you an example, the guys that are good at jiu-jitsu that take it into the fight, they get a takedown, they get on top of their opponent, and they have no urgency on how to control that person on bottom without holding them by their legs and keeping their head down, right? They're just putting their head down and trying to hold the person down and keep them down so that they don't lose the position, as opposed to posturing up and dropping, you know, strikes and controlling them in a different sense so that they're not in any danger of losing the position. They're scared because they know if they posture up, they're going to lose the control over the person that's on bottom. They're going to lose the position that they're in. They're going to end up in a scramble where they can lose their opponent and they can end up back on their feet, and they don't want to be on their feet. So you watch a lot of guys take others down and just put their head down and bury themselves into the sand trying to pass the guard, and then they use all this energy and they have nothing to show for it. And then they go into round two and they can't get a takedown. Then they get their ass whooped on their feet, you know? So you see a lot of that happening, and it shows in the sense that these guys are not using jiu-jitsu right, because jiu-jitsu has been watered down. Now, when you look at a guy like Khabib, for example, right, who is a phenomenal wrestler, who has phenomenal pressure, who's phenomenally doing well with what he shows is a form of guard, a form of groundwork, right? How is he doing sambo that is, to me, looks the same as what the jiu-jitsu I do, making it look so effortlessly, so beautiful, you know? And he's using ground and pound, he's using submissions, he's using pressure, he's using takedowns. People are like, oh, he's just an amazing wrestler. No, not just wrestling. There's a lot of amazing wrestlers that go in MMA and don't have any success with their wrestling. He's not just using wrestling. He is using wrestling to get it down. But once he gets people down, they never get back up.
Right.
Right? How many times do you see Khabib have to go for 4 takedowns in a round?
No.
He gets one takedown.
Once you're on the ground, you ain't getting back up again.
Yeah, he makes you feel like you're in quicksand and you're gonna sink every time. And you're underneath him and he's dropping punches and he's talking to guys like, he's like, hey man, you're not getting up, bro.
You should just quit. You should quit.
Yeah, you should just give up right now. Yeah, you should just give up right now.
Yeah.
You know.
I think one of the key elements of that too is the idea of making fighters pay. Like, you did all this work, you put them on the ground, and you're just now maintaining a control position and trying to advance. And one of the things that particularly I notice about your jiu-jitsu when I watch you fight, and I notice about guys like Khabib that function well as grapplers, is that they are putting rounds in the bank, and maybe they're not getting the finish, but they are eliciting damage on an opponent while they're on the ground, whether it be through strikes, whether it be through elbows, whether it be through pressure, but they are getting involved with striking. And you just don't see a lot of these high-level grapplers that get out there that use that concept anymore.
There's a lot of high-level grapplers that have no idea how to use that.
Yeah.
And that's what you see in grappling, and that's why they can't translate it over into professional fighting. And they have no idea how to use it. They have no idea how it's supposed to be used. It's actually scary, because you could think if you get a guy that's a jiu-jitsu black belt, like even a B or C level competitor, and he fights an athletic jock, like a guy who is like no scrub and is down to fight, bro, he might get his ass whooped.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he might not have no answer for that. We're gonna pull guard in a street fight?
Yeah, I say that a lot. I remember I posted something famously a couple couple years ago, I remember when the big thing was like jiu-jitsu guys were talking about how like strength training and CrossFit dudes like, well, what's your bench press going to be like in a street fight when I got you on your back and all this other shit like that. And like, I work in fucking bars, but like I've had to throw fucking yoked out CrossFitters out all the fucking time. And I do not look forward to that. Like a strong athletic guy is no one to fuck with, because I don't give a shit how much skill I know. If that dude is strong enough and you've got that 30-second, 45-second energy burst where he's full of adrenaline, like I don't want to fuck around with that shit. And I think a lot
pops you in your mouth, bro. It's gonna be a hard night, right quick. And
I don't like to say this because I still believe that any jiu-jitsu is still the best form of self-defense out there in the world, because you're training at a high level and you're understanding the ideas of grappling and the intensity of what a life scenario is going to be like. But like, I also feel like a lot of guys that I know that train jiu-jitsu that think that they have this superpower are a little bit mistaken in that regard.
Yeah, you train with guys. I'm sure in your mind you got one that you can pick out right now in your brain that you go, that guy will probably get his ass whooped in a real fight.
Right, exactly. You never tell him that.
And he thinks, doesn't know any jiu-jitsu.
Right, and he thinks, and it's scary to me because they think that they're fucking, they think that they're just, fuck this shit. I don't care. I know jiu-jitsu.
You know why I think about it? Because I think about myself. Before I ever learned jiu-jitsu, I was a straight gangster, and I would fucking do anything, any way to get to win a fight. If we got in a fight, bro, if I couldn't get it done with my hands, I'll be grabbing something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if I gotta bite you, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I keep thinking a guy like that in the fight, he's a dangerous guy. You know what I mean? Like, you got no limit.
If you're not prepared to deal with that, you don't know how to maintain a control position. You don't know how to put someone on the ground and make sure they can't get back up again, or smack them around a little bit, to be able to posture up, to use some force to punch him back, to elicit a response out of him, or to shut him up.
Yeah, bro. You grab somebody's arm, you think you're going to arm bar them, and they just pick you up and slam you on your head.
Yeah,
you're going to be, you know what I mean? Like, shit's going to go
pulling guard into like an arm bar from closed guard is one of the funniest self-defense like little things that I've seen, just because a lot of people shop that around like, oh, this is the jiu-jitsu move that'll get you out of a gym. There's guys that can just lift your entire body up like it's nothing. Like,
bro, I've met some human beings that are so strong that you're like, oh my God, that guy's just strong. You don't even look. You look at some of them, you're like, you don't even look like a guy that would be that strong, you know?
No.
Look, a guy could probably lift the car off the ground, you know what I mean?
You never know, and that's the scariest part. And the one thing I will say about being involved in jiu-jitsu is you learn that. You learn to never take anybody for granted. If you do, you need to go back to training and think about some things a little bit stronger. Because I've seen dudes just like you said, guys that you look at and go like, man, that guy looks like nothing, that are just like, holy shit, when you get a hold of them, they have just superhuman strength. You're kind of like that. Like, you don't necessarily look, but you don't necessarily, I love you, baby. But you don't necessarily look like this big, strong, imposing person. But dude, you get a hold of someone and they're not doing anything. You got this like superhuman strength that comes from like your soul.
Yeah, that's where I go digging.
That's it. So let's
I go digging inside my inner mind, going, don't let that happen.
Inner Vagner is going to hulk out. Now, we obviously, you've got a pretty big event coming up. And before we go into that, though, I would love to turn back the clocks to EBI 11. And I believe that is where you first encountered Mr. Craig Jones. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, why don't you walk me through that first match, like what you remember, where your mind was at, how it went.
I had 2 matches before I got to Craig. Craig had 2 matches as well before he got to me. He submitted 2 guys, one being Nathan Orchard and another one, I forgot the guy's name. He's really good from Ireland. Bald guy. I think he was in. He's doing a lot of competitions over the years. So, man, I forgot his name. I feel bad now. But he submitted both guys pretty quickly. And for me, that was EBI 11 was my first professional grappling tournament I'd done since my last MMA fight. And it was literally a week after my MMA fight. I had an MMA fight 1 week before. I fought a 5-round title fight against an ex-UFC guy. And and then I went to that EBI and I fought Joe Bay's first round, and then I fought Sergio Adila the second round, and I got 2 rear naked chokes on both those guys. On Joe Bay's, I went into overtime and got it on the first 30 seconds of overtime, and then on Sergio, I got it within the regulation, and then I fought Craig. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know who he was. He was a nice guy. He was in the back. Right before we fought, he came over, started talking to me. And we went out and fought. And then it was a freaking grueling match. It was like a very annoying Z-guard, from what I remember clearly. And, and as you see, he's made a career off that Z-guard. Super annoying Z-guard. And, he was trying to entangle my legs. And even though, to his credit, I was exhausted already because of the 2 matches I had before, because my matches were pretty drawn out and they were tough. Like I said, the second guy was a wrestler, and the first guy did the same principles as Craig. He played half guard, trying to suck my legs into leg locks, and I avoided it and then beat him in overtime. But by the time I got to him, I was already drained. And we went, if I'm not mistaken, they changed the EBI rules because of this match. The EBI rules used to be overtime, unlimited overtime till either somebody gets out or gets submitted, and then they rack up the time. Right. And I spent I think 40 minutes on Craig's back.
I think I remember that. It took forever. I remember that.
They changed the rules because of that.
Right.
And the match was like 45 minutes total.
Lots of rules have been changed in the EBI because of you, Mr. fucking Vagner Rocha. I've been to a few of those EBI rules meetings, and Eddie Bravo drops your name pretty much in every one of them.
Does he? Nice. Yeah, well, I know rules that get changed all the time, and I hear my name in the circles. I've been to tournaments where they've changed it in my favor, and I've been to tournaments where they change it against me. So, and usually they say it. They're like, "Oh, it's because of him." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
Whatever.
I always tell the people I'm with, I guess that's a trendsetter. Like I'm changing things for the better or for the worse. But yeah, it was a long match. He's what do I got to say about the guy? And then 2 or 3 months after that EBI, he went to ADCC and became famous. And I told him, funny, and he'll tell you himself. I told him right before he went out to fight Leandro Lowe, like we were backstage, and I walked by him, and I go, "Hey man, how you doing?" And he was like, because we talked a little bit before and after, right, the matches, and at DBI, and I said, "Hey, how you feeling today?" At ADCC in Finland, and he was like, "Man, I'm nervous. I got Leandro Lowe the first round. Leandro Lowe was #1 seed in that division.
He was on top of the world at that time. He was one.
Yeah, Leandro Lowe 2 months before that had beaten Gordon Ryan.
Right.
At the West Coast trials, even though Gordon came in short notice.
In that super fight thing they did.
Yeah, he beat him. And then, so for Craig to get Leandro Lowe first round for him was intimidating, And he looked at me, he goes, "Man, I'm nervous." And I was like, "Bro, you're going to be just fine." I was like, "Just play your game. Go put that guy in Z-guard and just go after his legs. He's IBJJF guy. You don't know nothing about leg locks." Bro, I come outside and I'm watching the match and I'm like, this motherfucker's gonna tap Leandro Lowe with a heel hook. Like he had him all over it,
Right.
And he eventually got his back because of the heel hook and tapped him. And then he came over. I remember as he's walking up the stairs and I was upstairs, he looked at me, he goes, "Oh, thanks, man." And I was like, I even told him years later, I was like, "Remember what I said to you? I am the one that motivated you." He's like, "You did tell me that though." I'm like,
I've met Craig a few times. He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude.
He's a nice guy. I got nothing against him. I wish him all the best. Just not this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that this weekend. Tell us a little. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were contacted? We had Heather on our last episode of the JJT podcast, Heather Standing, matchmaker at Submission Underground, and she sort of described a frantic situation behind the scenes where they're attempting to throw everything but the kitchen sink at Craig to sort of see who's the first guy to crack him.
They're sick of him winning everything. Was basically her words, is what she said. To find somebody to beat this asshole, I think is what she actually said.
Is that how they contacted you, or were they?
No, they contacted me before Craig fought Gilbert. I think Craig is the one that told them that he wanted to fight me.
Right.
And if you watch the Gilbert match in the pre-interviews, it was Chael talking about how he wanted me to face Craig, and they called me, and I was like, hey, I would like to take the match, but to be truthful with you, I literally that same exact day I had a training session, and I hurt something on me, and I was like, man, I literally had a session today, and I feel like I'm injured, but I only know in 2 days. When you got that feeling, you're like, man, I really think I fucked something up,
Right.
but I'm not 100% sure yet.
Right.
I was like, in 2 days, I'll be able to tell you if I'm good or not. And he's like, okay. I was like, but count me in. Put me as your guy for now, but don't.
Right. Don't look for anybody else yet, but I'll let you know for sure in 2 days.
Yeah, give me a couple days, 2 days. That's all I want. And like a day passed, and then Gilbert came to the gym to train the day after, and I was like, bro, I got offered to fight Craig. I wanted to fight him. He's on top of the world. He's killing all these events. He's he's a name. He's a big name. He's like not a normal guy no more. He's not a guy that I fought in EBI 11. You know what I mean? He was a nobody then. I was like, I want to fight him now because it's a good match. And I think styles make fight. I think his style against my style is, he's one of the best leg lockers in the world, and I personally don't mind that. I go right into that fire, So I called Sonnen back and I said, hey, man, it's not going to happen. I'm hurt, But I mentioned to Gilbert that this happened, and he told me that he would take the match, like, tomorrow. No problem. And Gilbert's that kind of guy who fights anybody anywhere, So Sonnen's like, I think I'm going to put Vinny in his place. I think I'm going to put Vinny in the match and not, maybe not Gilbert. So I said, okay, cool. I told Gilbert what Sonnen said to me, and Gilbert got all butthurt. He's like, oh man, I can't believe that. I'm going to call him. So he starts bugging Chael. He's like sending Chael text messages and bugging him. And Chael's like, all right, you want it that bad? I'll put you in. And Gilbert went out to fight Craig on Chael's event. And on the trip to Portland, he got sick. He got a flu.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he goes to the event. He's not gonna pull out. He got the flu. He's like, I'm here. I'm gonna fight. So he goes into the fight, and he made a silly mistake. He jumped into his guard, got his leg trapped, and and that was all she wrote. But he was like, man, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't in my mind, and no excuses. He didn't say that to anybody. He didn't put that on the internet. He didn't take nothing away from Craig's win. But it wasn't his best performance. And then that thing kept in the back of my mind, like, bro, this guy wanted to fight me. Like he's the one that called me out. Like these guys called me asking me to fight him. It wasn't like they made a card and they said we want Vagner versus you. And it was Chael's initial text was Craig wants to fight you because you beat him once. And I said, oh, so that's in his mind,
Right.
So when he beat Vinny, the very next day I sent Chael a message and say, hey, he wanted to fight me, right? Tell him I'm down. I'm ready, And Chael's like, it's on. I'm like, okay. So within that same week, I was already made aware that we were gonna get down.
What are some of the things you've done in your training leading up to Craig to get prepared for this fight?
I always study. I'm very deliberate on watching people. I study just enough to know where the attacks are coming from, and how I can maneuver inside his perimeter. His perimeter is super dangerous. If you're within his range of his legs and his grips, he'll make you pay. So I have a strategy about what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go out there and try to beat him. I'm going to go out there and put the heat on him and smother him and crush him and make him give up something, which is my style of fighting.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen him break. I've seen him quit. And I feel like I'll make him break and I'll make him quit again, So
I'll say this about you. Like I don't think there's too many people in the world. I can't think of anyone else in the world that's better off of someone's back. I feel like if you get on somebody's back and you get that body triangle on somebody, like they're in for a long fucking ride, man. Like I don't see anyone out there that attacks from the back as good as you do. Is that some of the things you're planning on? I know you approach in the more traditional manner of guard passing, advanced position. Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to, get in his face within the first 5, but there's the rules, so if we get into that overtime, he knows, and I know that I'm very, very good on the back. And when I fought him years ago, I was good, but I've gotten 10 times better since then, so, the attacks are different. They're more versatile. They're meaner. So, we're going to see how it plays when the dance starts, and see how he approaches the game.
Do you feel like you prepared any different? Because a 5-minute match leading into EBI overtime is if I'm wrong on this, correct me. It's one single 5-minute match and then you go directly into overtime, correct? Do you prepare? I mean, because a 5-minute match isn't that long, and it's difficult when you have 2 high-level guys like yourself to even get to a point to where you're creating some kind of an offense to lead into an exchange. Do you feel like did you do anything different to prepare for that? Do you have any kind of different strategical approach to try to get to that?
No. I trained normally. Of course, I specifically trained with guys that are going to give me the Craig Jones look. The guys are going to play guard in his way. They're going to come in with the entries that he does. Of course, I'm not, doing things that I probably didn't need to do, but I'm definitely ready for everything, anywhere this match goes, I'm ready. That's the plan. I'm facing one of the best guys in the world, and I'm not going to downplay his success. He is one of the best guys in the world, but he's facing one of the best guys in the world as well.
Yeah. Man.
So, it's not, this is a double-edged knife for both of us, That's why I was like, this is a great match, there's no way I'm going to fight him and he's not going to have my respect, and I'm not going to fight him and he's not going to have my respect, So
yeah, I'm looking forward to this a lot. I know your game and I know his game, and I feel like you really have a good matchup for him, and I feel like this is a really well-made matchup, and it also has the history of you guys fighting with one another in the past. So I'm excited to see this one go down. I think it's going to be a good fight for the both of you guys. I'm good for jiu-jitsu, which is the big winner in this situation.
It is. Jiu-jitsu is what that wins overall. Yeah, they're 100%. The biggest winner. Fans.
100%, man.
I just one question I had before we might wrap up, just because it is getting a little late. I know we all got to get our sleep. Craig has had a lot of high-profile matches with a lot of very different opponents in Submission Underground. Guys like Rumble Johnson, Kevin Casey, and most recently,
just Vinny.
Yeah, no, just
Vinny really just put himself in really weird predicament. I don't know. I know he believes that leg locks don't work, but to be honest with you, I think he was proven wrong that they actually do work. Yeah.
He that's Vinny's game too. He in his mind he believes he can't be leg locked, so he doesn't care about allowing a guy
dexterity on his feet and in his knee.
Yeah.
But the way his leg got pulled, it was nasty. He got hurt. Everybody's clear as day.
Horrible.
But that's Vinny, and that's his game, and that's what he does, and more power to him. I'm not that guy, and I'm not going to put myself in that situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, Vinny, that was Vinny. Leg locks don't work on Vinny in a more of a positional way. It's not like he's the Meow Brothers where he's letting his foot get absolutely ripped up like a maniac, and the images are just horrifying. I can't look at any image of the Meows in a leg lock because I might lose my lunch. Like, it's just horrifying, and it makes me want to quit jiu-jitsu more than anything else. I hate it. But you mentioned putting himself in weird positions, and me and Kevin actually talked about it beforehand that Vinny baits that inside heel hook.
That was a bad move.
Horrible decision. You can't, the inside heel hook is, when I think about the hierarchy of particularly leg locking up the pyramid, like most things are fed into that inside heel hook because it does the most damage. When you're going against the inside of the knee, it's just not as strong as the lateral tendon. When you're on the inside of the medial tendon, you start talking about the ACL, like particularly when you start turning the leg up in the inside, the inside heel hook is pretty much the top of the pyramid, the most destructive one. That's why you see a lot of guys just say instant tap as soon as it touched. So to see someone that nonchalant just to prove a point, because it seemed like Vinny just wanted to prove a point to say, look, I can't be leg locked. So he allowed Craig Jones to lock him up. Like, it was just reckless, in my opinion. I love you, Vagner. I hope you don't take a page out of Vinny Magalhaes.
I'm not going to be doing that to myself. That's for sure.
100%.
And if I get stuck in that situation and he does grab my leg like that, he will see a tap. I need my limbs. I don't. Yeah. My ego isn't that big. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's like when you blow that ACL out, man. That's not a.
I'm good. Like I said, my ego is not that big. I like my knees better.
Yeah, you're fucked for a while. You blow that ACL out. You're in a lot of trouble for a long time.
That's the game, though. It's a cat and mouse game. The 100%. Cat's not supposed to catch the mouse, and the mouse is supposed to duck the cat. So
we'll see. Well, Kev, man, you got any more questions? You got anything else you want to get into, man?
I am very good. All I can say is I'm just excited to see this fight. The more jiu-jitsu right now, the better things are starting to open up. Specifically down by Florida, which I think a bunch of you guys are happy about. Thank you, Vagner, for coming on, man. This was amazing. Is there anything you would like to plug last minute here at the close of the show?
I'm doing a camp that we were hosting at in my school with a lot of really good guys. The No-Gi All-Star Camp. We're doing it again in the summer. We're planning dates right now, trying to plan around this virus. We were supposed to have close to 70 people coming down with names like Josh Hanger, Boogie, John Calistine, Cyborg, Gilbert Burns, myself, my boy. That's in Montreal. Corey, he's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy that's helped me plan this whole thing out. And we had a lot of guys planning on coming. So I know for you guys that are probably listening to this, if you want to get a great experience coming down to South Florida, checking out the summer here, how it's cool, and get to be in these environments with all these amazing athletes and learn some cool stuff. So it's probably going to happen again. We're just trying to get around these dates and plan. So keep your eyes out, keep looking. We got a page on Instagram, it's the No-Gi All-Star Camp, and it was rescheduled. It was for spring, but it's gonna come back. So just want to kind of post it because we're gonna have a big following on it. Flow Grappling was supposed to be part of it, and so hopefully this all gets right back to normal soon enough, and we can continue on with sharing the knowledge.
Well, yeah, man, if you guys can make it out there 100%, I will say firsthand that like just being around Vagner is an awesome opportunity, man. He has so much knowledge, and there's such a true like care for his students and for people that want to learn from him that shows through every time I'm around you, man. I appreciate you, brother.
A lot of people get this conception of me because they watch me compete and they think I'm this horrible, mean guy. But to be the complete opposite, in real person, I'm a father of 2. I'm a father of 300 in the gym. My priority is to share the thing I love, jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I do really try to do my best at it, and like everything I do, So yeah, people get this misconception of me a lot. I've been told, like a lot of people think that I'm this rough around the edges guy, when in reality it's not the case. No,
man, you have in one of the things that I think of the most about you is your loyalty, man. I can remember back in the day when I was walking around like an asshole with my iPhone and little earplugs trying to get interviews after Fight to Wins, and you were always cool. You always took the time to sit with me because we go back, and you're an awesome dude, and you always say good things about me. So I'm going to extend the favor because you are an awesome dude, and I appreciate you greatly for all you've done for me. So there we go.
Thank you, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, you could have like there's worse guys to kick than AJ, if we're being totally honest. It wasn't-
And this is the same guy that's been slapped and punched by many others. So
He's fine. Yeah. You're not the only guy that wanted to kick him off that stage, man. I know AJ from a kid. We came up together, and I give him the benefit of the doubt sometimes because I think I know AJ the person as opposed to AJ the persona, but he gets a lot of the shit he deserves, and I think he gives a fuck. I think he does it because he wants to do it because he wants.
AJ, don't kick my ass, please.
Well, anyway, man. Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate
he
you.
He enjoys the publicity.
He loves it. He loves it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Vagner, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, you can feel free to catch him facing off against Craig Jones at Submission Underground 14 this Sunday. But in the meantime, stay safe. We're sort of coming out of this, it seems like, or like jiu-jitsu wise anyway. But stay safe, wash your hands, protect your neck, and be nice to each other. This has been the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I've been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined by my co-host, Kevin Gallagher, and guest, Vagner Rocha. Good night, everybody.
God bless everyone.
Thanks,
God bless.
Yeah, man.